Hello, everyone, and welcome to GNCC on DVD. It's round number 11 of America's premier off-road racing series, the 2006 Suzuki Grand National Cross Country Championship, and this is the Unadilla GNCC. Now, this is the ATV DVD, but we did want to show you that the Ghost lives at Unadilla, and there is MX Lights star Brock Hepler, who's going to be racing in the motorcycle races tomorrow. Right now, let's go ahead and take a look at the top point standings as we head into this 11th round. Bill Balance has moved into the number one position with 256 points. He's going to be tough to dethrone, working on that 7th championship. The guy that's trying to break him right now is Chris Borich, who sits back in the number 2 spot of points with 228 points. He's had a couple of bad races over the course of the last few, so it's kind of taken him out of the run a little bit. With 176 points out of Washington, West Virginia, the rider that's been coming on strong for the last 2 years, Chris Jinks, got a couple of wins under his belt this season, and of course, solid as a rock, Dwayne Johnson, been putting in some consistent finishes to move into a 4th place position overall.
Jason Wygant down here at the start for the Unadilla GNCC. Looking at William Yoakley and Chris Jenks behind me. These guys got a lot of motivation to prove themselves. Early in the season, they were consistent. They looked like they were going to stay in the title hunt. Unfortunately, now they're back 4th and 5th in points after a whole lot of bad luck in the last couple of races. They've got to be super motivated today. And I'll tell you what, William Yoakley, he threw a win away at North Carolina a week ago. And Chris Jenks had a similar situation at Unadilla right here last year when he led until the last lap, until he got stuck in a mud hole. So these guys are ready, they're motivated, and they want to win today here in New York. So before we get to it, let's look at our Scott USA helmet cam. Let you know exactly what these riders have in store for them today.
Well, we take a look at our Scott Goggles helmet cam. Thanks, Jason Wygant. As you can see, the rain showers have fallen, and it is creating some puddling out there on the race course. So we're going to have water in places that water normally doesn't stand. And where it normally does stand, it's going to be a little bit deeper. Now, this is out of the first couple of turn region. This is like turn 3, out of turn 3, that long straight stretch that's going to run down beside the starting area before these riders head into that first wooded section. You get a bird's eye view of what the race course is going to look like as they attack the course here at the Unadilla Valley Sports Center. Now we move into some of the wooded sections, as you can see, somewhat tight, but at the same time, it's opened up quite a bit, and with the rain showers, they're going to need to open up more lines as the day progresses. We're starting to see some hard-packed soil underneath some of that loose clay and sand that we have on top. It's hard-packed clay underneath all that, and then there's a lot of roots that's going to create a lot of wheel spin out there, so we expect to possibly see a lot of riders stuck out there on the course. If you noticed in our morning race, there was rain showers falling on the starting line itself, so it's going to make for some tricky situations, and some alternate lines are going to obviously open up as the day progresses, and we already see some of those from that morning class races. We're taking a look at the helmet cam after the AM ATV race before the 1 o'clock start. And again, some nice open wooded sections. Some areas tighten up a little bit, but overall here at Unadilla, it's fairly open and plenty of passing opportunities can be afforded to you. But the thing that you got to worry about here is going to be bottlenecks. Those are going to happen quite a bit as those ruts get deeper. Riders are going to get stuck on those, like in holes like this, and then they're going to have to look for places to go around as more and more people kind of stack up behind the person that gets stuck in that hole and creates that bottleneck. So we're going to see different areas of this track get wide open as the race day progresses here at the Unadilla Valley Sports Center. As we head down to the starting line now, Bill Balance getting ready to go racing, and there his oldest little girl that you see, and she is definitely Daddy's little girl, likes to be there with Daddy at each and every one of these races. There's the 199 of Pat Brown. You might recognize him from the ATV National Motocross Series. He come here to Unadilla to try his hand at the GNCC, and it looks like we got fans out on hand with signs and everything. Yoakley, Borich, Jamie, that would be Jamie Booker, the number 444 that they're cheering on there. There's Dwayne Johnson. Now, that rider's been so consistent, he's kind of slipped in under the radar to move into the top point standings into the 4th place position. To actually get around this rider right here, the number 3 of William Yoakley, who had been holding on to at least a 3rd place position in points earlier in the season. A rider we're not real sure what to expect. Adam McGill, the number 9. Michael Houston's got 1 win under his belt this year, going to try to make it 2 here at Unadilla this week, and Chris Jinks got a couple under his belt and had some rather disgusting races if you talk to him. Now, all in all, he's had some really good runs, but just bad things have happened to Chris Jinks, and he's not been able to post as good a results in the last few races as what he would like. As we head down to that first row number 1, our pro class, 23 riders in all, heading into that first turn, and we're going to look for the ITP hole shot here, and it looks like Bill Balance hooks up once more, and look at this. Balance takes over the early lead. Back in second, though, it's Chris Borch as we look at the ITV hole shot one more time. Here comes Balance. He just gets off to a great start, and there's really nobody close by to challenge him as he makes his way across the stripe there to move into the number 1 spot and secure that with Borch, like we said, right back there in the number 2 spot right behind him. As row number 2 off and rolling now, our Pro-Am division. Got a total of 22 riders in this one. Riders to watch out for: Todd Rothermel, Craig Reed, Jeff Pickens, Taylor Kaiser, Michael Lucas, Tyler Lennick, Rob Hertz, Zach Phillips, Ryan Morphew, and more. Row number 3, the Open A class, 29 riders in this one. Guys like Ryan Lane, Timothy Gale, Chris Cole, Lee Dickerson, Ryan Shockling, Michael Johnston, Spencer Dickerson, Darren Maples, Brad Macri, David Crane, also Justin Wood, Christopher Condon, Chris Booth, and more. Row number 4 is going to be our 4-stroke A class. 28 riders in this one. Guys like Donald Ackerman, Dustin Piggott, Ralph Johnson, John Lavery, also Nick DeVore. We got Brett Kozarski out of Webster, New York. Another New Yorker is Jeff Erskine, as he's here with us. Michael Williams from Waverly, New York, as a lot of these riders get tied up in that first turn off of road number 4, but they get it all sorted out. And down the road number 5, our Junior Plus 25, Wes Stone, Peter Stabmuller, Jim Pinkston. Keep an eye out on that number 76, Chris Conklin, Greg Glock, Kevin Loxton, Lou Russo, Dennis Shadron, Jamie Booker. Also, Chad Wallace, Phil Cole, Glenn Reed, Daniel Conway, and more. Row number 6, the Senior Plus 40 class riders. Dave Simmons, John Cunningham, John Kinney, Matthew Zaleski. Also, Frank Grimplin, Blaine Schick, Robert Rodriguez, Wayne Edwards, James Wilczek, Dave Hyder, Perry Roop, Gary Bellback, Gary Davis, Albert James, and Ron Mann. Row number 7, our Vet Plus 30 class, I should say. The 36 riders in this one. Guys like George Long, John Chambers, David Bishop, Gary Shamrock, Mark Walters, Lonnie Weaver, Alan Stanka, David Hamza, also Brian White, Aaron Baker, and more. 36 in all in our Vet 30-plus class. Row number 8, the 4-stroke stock A and B riders mixed together. Only 7 riders in this one, but competitive nonetheless. Justin Wright, Eric Wilczek, Jeremy Evans, Nathan Gogno, Brian Foltz, Thomas Kuntz, and Adam Reed to round out your field of 7s. We head down to row number 9. Looks like we got our 2-stroke A-B class riders. Only 3 riders in this particular division, but again, it's nice to see these machines out there and some much different sound through the woods for Mark Spatero, Robert Bennett, and Curtis Walraven, all holding on to the dream that 2-strokes are still alive. As we head down to road number 10 next, it's the Open B class. 19 riders in this one: Nathan Walpe, Barry Taylor, James Davis, Denny Carson, Tyler Moore, Andrew Cornell, Brian Adams, Brooks Dyer, Timothy Seaman, Dan Wood, Zach Skinner, John Arnold, Michael Lancaster, Anthony Rhodes, Cody Arsenal, Eric Hoyland, and more. Row number 11, our final row, is going to be the 4-stroke B class. Riders like Michael Novat, Matt Hendrickson, Brett Marksberry, Curtis Marshall, Ronnie Mills, Mike Budd, Eric Hinman, Daniel Fry, Justin Cosmer, Shane Bonner, also Kevin White, Jason Howell, Josh Wakeman, and more. As we head on to the opening lap, and it looks like Bill Balance holding on to the lead early on here as Borch holds on to the second-place position. And real tough to tell who that was back there in that number 3 spot. As you can see, these machines are already covered in mud, and we're only probably about 1.5 miles, 2 miles at most, into this race right now. But the good thing is, look at that. We see some dry dirt down there, but it's in a deep, deep rut. And that only means it's going to get deeper, so things are going to slow up through that particular line on the race course, and more are going to open up like you see right there on the outside. Those deep ruts causing problems just like that for that pro class rider, as he had a tough way to go. As we look in, now we see more of our pro class, or should say the rest of our classes coming through. Some of our Pro-Am riders, as well as all the other classes: Open A, 4-stroke A, Junior Plus 25, Vet 30 Plus, 4-stroke AB, 2-stroke AB, Open B, and 4-stroke B. All going to be making their way through over the course of the next few minutes, and we'll check back in just a few moments here at the Unadilla Valley Sports Center for more ATV racing action at our Unadilla GNCC. if you take note, you can see that the racetrack has really begun to deteriorate through this section of the race course, and it only tells the story of a small portion of what the racetrack is like out there. But here's another small portion. It's the famous Unadilla Valley motocross track, and it looks like it's in pretty good shape as Bill Balance makes his way around right now, still in the number 1 spot. Has yet to relinquish that number 1 position as he has no dirt on the front of his ATV. Back in the number 2 spot is the number 2 of Chris Borch as they make their way in and out of Gravity Cavity now. Big air for both these boys as they are off and rolling here at the Unadilla GNCC. William Yoakley in 3rd, 4th place Chris Jinks, and Dwayne Johnson rounding out your top 5, making his way by there. I think that right there might have been Pat Brown aboard the 199 in a 6th place position. There's Adam McGill aboard the number 9, and we've already got some great battling going on. Looks like some of these riders trying to set themselves up for a pass out here on the motocross track because might not have as many opportunities out there in the woods, especially the way the ruts are getting out there. 4.5 mile marker here on lap number 1. Balance Borch, William Yoakley still in number 3 spot. Chris Jinks running in 4th. Dwayne Johnson in 5th. No changes there. Brandon Balance now has moved up to 6th. 7th now is Adam McGill. Matt Smiley running in 8th. Good start for him. Chris Bithell in 9th. And Brent Sturdivant rounding out your top 10. Getting to see some of those names that we haven't got to see up there in a while, like, well, for instance, that 8th place ride of the number 5 of Matt Smiley. He has just not had a year at all as far as racing. I mean, he might as well not even have showed up at the racetrack, it seems like, a couple of different times. But all in all, I know that Matt Smiley, Mighty Matt as we like to call him, will battle back. And though we may not see a lot of him here in the 2006 season, look out in 2007 because he is not swallowing this pill very well whatsoever. He is hungry, he is determined, and he is angry as far as the way his results have been. And he wants to not only get into the top 5 next year, but he would dearly love to maybe win a championship. So keep an eye out for Matt Smiley in the 2007 season on the Safari Motorsports team. He could be a force to be reckoned with, especially after his shortcomings here in the 2006 racing season. Still at this 4.5 mile marker, as you can see, lots of riders starting to stretch out. But look at this, at the 7.5 mile marker, as we check a little further ahead, Chris Borch has taken over the number 1 spot away from Balance. Now we're seeing a little bit of dirt on the front end of the ATV of Bill Balance. But look there again, we made mention of this a few moments ago about how we're getting down to some dry dirt, and that's exactly what we're doing on that small uphill section, which is a saving grace for a lot of different riders, not just our pro class riders, but a lot of riders. There's your 8th place ride of Matt Smiley. Good to see him out there on that factory back Polaris. John the Tally back in a 20th place position. He's your 2005 ATVA National Motocross Champion. Actually was defending that title in the 06 season here, but broke a thumb toward the end of the season, so that kind of took him out of it. But he's out having some fun. Just got married at the on the first weekend of September. So we say congratulations to the Ironman John the Tally. He's struggling a little bit here at the Unadilla GNCC, but we didn't expect a lot out of him today because of just coming off of that injury on that left hand. So it's kind of tough to hang on to the ATV. At the 8.5 mile marker, no changes here. Borch still out front aboard the number 2. Balance in 2nd. It looks like a little bit of a gap may be beginning to open up just a hair. Yoakley still in 3rd. Good start for him. Jinks in 4th. And Johnson still rounds out your top 5. We got a strong battle right now for 3rd place, but top 5, most everybody else seems to be comfortable. Adam McGill up to a 6th place position now as this youngster, we usually see him ride very well in the mud. Matt Smiley gains a spot. He's up to 7th. He gets around Chris Bithell. Bithell drops off to an 8th place spot now aboard that number 14 LTE machine. Brent Sturdivant, 9th place. Good to see him up in a solid top 10. Out near the 9 mile markers, we're closing in on the completion of lap number 1. Borch looking over his shoulder. We could see a checkout by this young man, and that's what he traditionally does toward the end of the season. Last few races, he usually gets out front and checks out, and these guys have nothing for him for the rest of the day. But Bill Balance, don't count him out just yet. He's not a 6-time and working on 7-time GNCC champion for nothing, because he knows how to just bide his time and wait for the opportunities. And whenever they arise, he strikes, and he strikes hard. Suzuki special test section is what we were looking at there as we head toward the end of lap number 1. It's still Borch out front. 1 lap in the history books now. Balance in 2nd. And let's go ahead and take a look at your leaderboard and see how things are breaking down. The Suzuki leaderboard says Borch, Balance, William Yoakley in 3rd, Chris Jinks in 4th, and Dwayne Johnson, he's solid as a rock, rounding out the top 5.
This is Aaron from Rocky Mountain ATV MC with this week's Rider Tip of the Week. To many racers, looking fast is just as important as actually being fast, and a great way to look fast and showcase your sponsors is through custom printed decals from Attack Graphics. Attack Graphics decals are both durable and scratch resistant. Attack Graphics motorcycle number plate backgrounds include enough decals to do all 3 number plates and even includes a free mini front number plate decal. Attack Graphics ATV number plate backgrounds come in 3 or 4 plate versions and also include a free mini front number plate decal. To complement your number plate backgrounds and dress up your machine even more, Attack Graphics also offers fork guard decals, front fender decals, rear fender decals, and swing arm decals. For just $29.99, these number plate backgrounds and all other Attack Graphics decals can be found at RockyMountainATVMC.com or call for a free catalog.
Picking the action back up here on lap number 2 as our riders make their way through the pits. It looks like Borch might have stopped for a quick gas pit stop there. Balance closing the gap up just a little bit more. Yoakley in. He's going to stop for a first lap stop. Actually, this is lap 2, but it's the first time through the pits, so he's taking a small shot of gas there. As you can see, did not take a lot. Only lost a position or 2 out there as we see things tightening up, and we see these guys, they've got hunger in their eyes. They seen Yoakley slide back just a little bit, and they're thinking that they're catching, so they're wanting to try to take advantage of the situation with the momentum through the pits. Whether or not it's going to be enough for him, question remains to be answered. Down in the Bithell pits, Chris Bithell looks like he might be struggling just a little bit. Both of our LTE riders, well, one of our LTE riders, Looney Tuned Exhaust riders, is in the pits and back out, and I'm not sure if that was Houston or if that was Bithell. There goes Houston, so Bithell is the one in the pits. He was running in a 6th place position, but now looks like he's got some work on his ATV, so we're going to see that 6th place drop way back as far as his overall positions on the race course is. But that's where he stood at the end of lap number 1, and we just see the bikes continue to go by and him lose more and more time and positions as we head out to the 3/4 of a mile marker now. Just past the pit section. Look at this. This section of the racetrack, very new. Actually, brand spanking new section of the race course, but you quickly get right into the old section where it gets a little gnarly and muddy out there. So these riders at the starting line region. This is kind of heading toward that start line. Now, we looked at this on the Scott Goggles helmet cam there a few moments ago. And we know that now, between now and the 1.5 mile marker, we're going to see a lot of, challenging terrain, some big mud holes out at that 1.5 mile marker. So these riders are blazing their way fast and hard and furious towards one of the roughest sections on the race course. And a lot of changes taking place there earlier in the AM ATV race, and we expect to see the same. Now, as far as the pro class riders, not real sure, especially on the first couple of times through, but once the lap traffic really starts to stack up in there, that's when it's going to be a telltale sign of what's going to see some changes taking place with these guys. There goes Pat Brown aboard that 199, getting his first, actually this is his 2nd time at a GNCC race. He raced one a few years ago. I was talking to him before the race, and he said that he has raced GNCC before, but never at Unadilla, and he wanted to come back out and try to give it a try and see how it worked out for him. You know, we may get to see him at more of them. We will probably also get to see John Natale at more of them as time wears on. Now, this season, I don't know about Natale, again, with the broken thumb and the broken wrist area there. It kind of makes it tough for him to do. But Chris Borch continues to lead at the 1 mile marker. Balance not far off the pace, and Jinx back in the number 3 spot as he got the gimme from William Yoakley. Yoakley stopped for some gas, if you remember, in the pits, so that drops Yoakley off a couple of positions there, and he lost a little bit of time. So Chris Jinx is just biding his time right now and just trying to keep pace with the front 2 riders. He does not want to let those 2 riders get away. He wants to be there whenever the last lap rolls around so he can put his head down and charge and try to force one of those guys into a mistake and maybe take their spots away from them or maybe even get around them during a pit stop. We'll just have to wait and see. 3.5 mile marker now, back out on the motocross track section of our race course. It's Borch, it's Balance, it's Jinx in 3rd. William Yoakley has moved back up to a 4th place position. Dwayne Johnson in 5th. Adam McGill runs 6th. Brandon Balance in 7th place right now. Matt Smiley back to 8th. He was up to 7th there for a little bit. Pat Brown in 9th. And Brent Sturdivant rounds out your top 10 after 3.5 miles of racing on this 2nd lap of racing. So we're working on lap number 2, and this one still got several miles to go before we get to the finish line, so we could see some more changes taking place before this lap even is all said and done. 3.5 mile marker of about 10 miles of race course that these riders are racing on out there right now. Down into the gravity cavity, that looks like that is Brandon Balance actually getting a good look at that particular section of the race course. And you think that some of these GNCC riders are not familiar with motocross. That's not true at all, especially the Balance boys. Those guys actually have a motocross track. Their Uncle John owns one down on their farm in Bowling Green, Kentucky, so they get a chance to practice quite a bit on the motocross track, so Unadilla is a lot of fun for them. Chris Borch out front at the 4.5-mile marker, and where's the champ? Where is Bill Balance? Looks like that Borch is beginning to walk away and leave Bill Balance, but Balance, again, a very calculated rider. He's not going to allow Borch to get too far out of striking distance, I don't believe. Chris Jinks still holding steady back in third, but look at this. William Yoakley well within striking distance, especially if some little miscue would take place on behalf of the number 4 of Jinks. Dwayne Johnson back in the number 5 spot, losing a little bit of time to Yoakley, but at the same time, still holding a fairly steady and comfortable pace out there as Brandon Balance holds on to a 6th place position. Aboard the number 6, Brandon Balance started out the season phenomenally with a 3rd place finish at an Orange Crush GNCC. Did it in rather astonishing fashion. If you remember, he went over the bars and had a pretty gnarly crash down by the lake at Lake Winona for our Orange Crush GNCC. Literally knocked himself out. When we talked to him on the podium, he didn't really know what had happened, but it took a couple of weeks for him to get it all figured out, but he finally did, and he just hasn't been able to put it all together since then. But don't ever count out Brandon Balance for a podium or even quite possibly a win at an ATV GNCC race. And I don't think we've seen the last of Brandon Balance. He's just now coming into his own. I believe that he is starting to figure this game out quite a bit. He's been right in the shadows of his older brother Bill Balance for so many years, and how frustrating that's got to be for him. And now he's just trying to make a name for himself, and he's got a little bit of extra support and stuff with Factory Yamaha here in this 2006 racing season, but I think a lot of pressure was put on him, and he put a lot of it on himself. So once he's got that under his belt, that first year of factory sponsorship, I think that he may be able to really work things out in the 07 season. We've seen Matt Smiley working his way by, still trying to trudge along and keep up with the pace of the top 10 riders out there. And Balance back out front. What happened here? Borch back in the number 2 spot, so we've got a change in the lead again. As we look back to third, no changes back there as Chris Jinks still in third, 4th place still. William Yoakley, look at Yoakley trying to go in the deep mud, trying to cut the short line there. He's taking every chance that he can to shave off every little bit of time that he can from that 3rd place ride of Chris Jinks. Johnson still back in 5th. It is still Brandon Balance in 6th, but it looks like Brandon Balance may be feeling some pressure now from the number 9 of Adam McGill. McGill closing in hard and fast now. McGill, a very strong mud rider. We've seen him on the podium a couple of different times, and especially at the John Penton GNCC when it's muddy. And today it is muddy in Unadilla. So we know that the confidence level is high right now for Adam McGill. Kurt McGill is what a lot of folks know him by around his house back in West Virginia, but we know him as Adam here at the GNCCs. But look for him to possibly be on the podium. As we head back out to the front, we got ourselves a battle for the lead. It is the number 1 of Bill Balance and the number 2 of Chris Borch. Looking at this racetrack in this canopy, under the canopy of the woods, it's looking pretty good. We had some rain showers earlier today. As you can see, the trees there have got a lot of mud stacked up on them where these riders have gone by and actually spun mud up onto the trees. But look, we're down into the dry soil. We're into some roots also, and that's creating some obstacles out there for some of these riders. But momentum is definitely the key, especially through some of these uphill sections. And you want to keep going as hard and as fast as you can up through there without overriding and running yourself into a tree, and it looks like our pro riders are not having much of a problem doing that. And we got a battle for 5th right now as Adam McGill and Brandon Balance have moved up a couple of spots there, so they're in the hunt for an overall top 5 right now. Meanwhile, look right there, that is the number 5 of Matt Smiley, riding strong still here at Unadilla. Back out front, it looks like Balance is now feeling the pressure from Borch. It was not this tight last time. We've seen him somewhat tight, but not quite like that here at the Suzuki Special Test section. These riders have got plenty of opportunities here as far as they can go left. Some of the riders you may see later on going left up the hill there or going straight right through here. And, it all depends on what line they want to choose and which one they think may be a little bit faster. They may get hung up like we see right there. Is that Balance hung up with a lapped rider at that 9-mile marker? That is Brandon Balance that has gotten hung up, and those are the kind of things that happen out on the trail a lot of times out of the view of the camera that we don't even see. Look at that rider, a very, very courteous rider, actually helping the pro rider out and said, go, don't worry about me. He actually fell underneath his wheel. I thought he was going to let him use him for traction, but he likes Brandon Balance, but I don't think he likes him quite that much as we're wrapping up lap number 2 here at the Unadilla GNCC. At the Suzuki leaderboard, it looks like Bill Balance, Chris Borich, Chris Jinks, William Yoakley, and Dwayne Johnson. Time now for our Motorsport Hot Product of the Week.
Hi, I'm Johnny Gallagher, GNCC ATV Pro number 17, here for this week's Motorsport Hot Product of the Week. The most important piece of equipment you can have in the rough and tumble world of ATV racing is a helmet. I choose the Flylight 4. Flylight 4 helmets feature carbon fiber Kevlar shell with new aerodynamic shape, custom design graphics with a high gloss UV hardened finish, comfortable color match liners, easily removable and washable, and they feature forced air induction ventilation. You can find these Flylight 4 helmets and other products at motorsport.com. And that was your Motorsport Hot Product of the Week.
Picking the racing action back up here on lap number 3 as our riders head through the pits. Bill Balance going to stop for a pit stop. Looks like Chris Borich will as well, but Borich not getting gas, just fresh goggles. He's off and rolling. Borich got gas, I believe, on the first lap, so that's going to help him out quite a bit. Now Chris Jinks in 3rd place, electing not to stop this time through himself. William Yoakley in 4th. He already stopped, so he won't need to stop most likely until after the race is all said and done. He should be able to carry it all the way home. Dwayne Johnson gained quite a bit of time over the course of the last couple of laps, but will lose a little bit. But he knows that. That's part of the strategy. You know you got to stop and get gas, so that's exactly what they do. Adam McGill in 6th place into the pits. We've seen, I think, Brandon Balance heading by there just a moment ago. There's Grandpa Jim helping him out there. You see his grandpa is probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest, Adam Kurt McGill fans out there on the race course, and good to see Grandpa out there helping out quite a bit. And there's Brandon Balance into the pits. Told you he was into the pits. I just got a little bit early. That must have been another Yamaha pilot we've seen rolling through there. Brandon has had a rough lap there. We've seen him get stuck with that lapped rider out there. He's getting some gas, got a fresh pair of goggles. Going to try to find some new life out there. Matt Smiley also in the pits on that factory back Polaris, and this is a new life Matt Smiley. We haven't seen him ride this strong in quite some time, and it's not a matter of not being able to, the machine not performing. It's just a matter of really bad luck for him here in the 06 season. Pat Brown into the pits. Look at this. No quick fills for this guy. He's got the traditional motocross setup on that bike, so it's going to take a little bit longer for him to get fuel than what it is the rest of the guys. He's out here for fun as much as anything, but, you know, he also would like to be up on the podium or maybe even a contender for an overall win here today, but he's got a lot of work cut out for him in order to get that accomplished. But, you know, Pat Brown, got to say congratulations to him as he finished out the season on fire in the ATV National Motocross Series, and he's been doing that the last couple of years. This year was a little slow getting started, tough break for him, but watch out in 2007. Jeremy Rice into the pits, and another rider we haven't seen a lot of this year. We've seen a lot of him last year, and we thought, man, next year is going to be the year for Jeremy Rice. But Jeremy's one of those guys, he actually works a 40, 50, 60, 70-hour week each and every week as a construction man, and then has to come and go racing on the weekends, and he has to do it all himself. John Natale out of the race. Let's head down to the pits.
Don't know what's going on right now. We're back in 2nd right now. We come in on the end of the 2nd lap and put a new set of goggles on him, topped him the rest of the way off the fuel. He's probably 5 to 7 seconds behind right now, but we'll get it back. Try to get this win today and add a little more, stretch his points out on this, stretch his points lead out.
Chris said if he got out in the lead, he wanted to pit in the first lap, so we pitted him, got out, and he still stopped when he's behind Bill and got goggles, but no fuel. We fueled him the first lap. We're going to have to. It's a 5-lap race.
So far, Chris hasn't stopped. We're running number 3rd lap, and he hasn't had any gloves or goggles. I think he'll be all right. He's still wearing them, so they must be cleaning off pretty good for him.
Picking the action back up on lap number 3, just past the finish line and pit area as we head toward the starting line region. And look how much different this section of the race course is this lap as compared to the first time through there. We've seen about 300 ATVs going through there, and it has really taken its toll on that section of the race course. As we watch, it looks like this is a 3rd place rider, and that's Chris Jinks making his way out now. Looks like a little bit of a gap on that GT Thunder backed rider on board that Honda. William Yoakley in the number 4 spot. He's got a big gap opening up now between himself and Jinks. What's happening there? Dwayne Johnson back there. Going to be looking for, we were going to be looking for Brandon Balance, but he got hung up And we've had some changes back there for that 6th place position, so we'll watch and see how it all gets sorted out here at lap number 3. That's number 9 of McGill. He moves up into a 6th place position, so he gets the gimme on Brandon Balance's misfortunes out there at the end of that particular lap. And is this Balance coming through again, or is this Brown? Yeah, this must be Brandon Balance, so not nearly as long in the pits as what we had thought. So he didn't lose positions, but he did lose some time out there. And on days like today, it's easy to make that up. It's also easy to lose even more time, so Brandon's going to have to ride with his head out there today. Brent Sturdivant making his way down by the starting grid right now, as you can see, trying to grab every bit of traction he can. It's tough to do there, but look, out on the motocross track, not nearly as much water as there's a lot of elevation changes out here, so a lot of drainage has taken place since the rain showers earlier this morning, and it's tacked up quite a bit as we head down into the gravity cavity. It is Borch out front. Remember, he got around in the pit stops there as Balance got gas and goggles. Borch only stopped for goggles, so some good strategy for him. Puts him into the number 1 spot. Chris Jinks still in the number 3 spot at the 3.5 mile marker as he drops down into the world famous gravity cavity. Is he going to try to go for some big air there? Or is he just going to try to ride it out? Not going. Whoa, yeah, he got a no-footer there, trying to do a little styling and profiling, if you will. Out near the 6 mile marker now here on this 3rd lap of racing, as we're a little past the halfway point now. Borch beginning to open up a little bit of a lead over Balance. This could maybe spell a little bit of trouble for the champ, maybe not. But again, Balance is not necessarily got to ride for the win, especially on days like today. He's just got to ride to finish. Now, you remember last year, Bill Balance came here and he had to virtually ride to win. He had missed a race because of the broken ankle. If you remember, he broke his ankle in the offseason. So Balance actually making his way here to Unadilla for the 2nd time. The last year when he was here, he had pins, he had all kinds of wild things going on with that ankle. But fortunately for him, he still was able to pull off a win with the broken ankle. It was amazing. Will he be able to do it here 100% healthy in the 2006 season? Now, you talk to Balance, maybe he's not 100% healthy because he says that ankle's still a little bit sore, but it's not. Whoa, look at that. Bithell just cannot buy any luck today as he wraps it around the tree there. He's going to have to work to get that one off. That's in some thick mud and down in a rut, and let's see if he's going to be able to get it off without much problem, as it looks like he is going to be passed by more riders. Hey, use the smart way there. Let's watch that one more time. What exactly happened there? Just got a little crossroaded. You don't see that happen very often in an ATV, but when you do, it usually spells disaster and trouble, and that's exactly what happened for that rider as he finds himself pinned against the tree. Out on the racetrack again as we check back in with our leaders up here. Look at this. Looks like Borch may have some lap traffic between himself and Balance now. Could be a little bit of a buffer zone that he's been looking for all day long. And there is Balance as he's trying to play catch-up at this point. But again, a very calculated rider. Don't count him out. He may be losing time, but hey, this is lap number 3. When that white flag comes out, you see a totally different rider out of the number 1 of Bill Balance. And he hasn't won 6 championships for no reason. It's because he's got the heart to dig deep when the digging deep is necessary. Seeing William Yoakley, another rider that likes to dig deep. He's struggling a little bit here today in the mud. You know, he's got to be frustrated from that last race at the Yadkin Valley GNCC. Was leading on the last lap. Less than a mile to go before the checkers. He got tangled up in a bottleneck. Balance and several other folks got around him. Actually, I think Dwayne Johnson was one of the riders that got around him. And anyway, when it was all said and done, William Yoakley was just not a very happy individual whatsoever as he went from first to, I think he ended up finishing a 6th in that race, but he would have loved to have had the first place points for sure. Borch out front here at the 7.5 mile marker. Balance still in the number 2 spot. Seconds are starting to open up between these two riders. But again, back in 3rd place is Chris Jinks, and you got to wonder, is Balance going to feel any pressure from Jinks? Jinks is, like we said, he's kind of hungry. It's been a while since he's gotten the strong finish that he's been looking for, so he's going to be riding hard. He's had a lot of the same luck that William Yoakley has had, who's riding back in the 4th place position. Chris Jinks has been there a couple of different times in the last few races, but has not been able to capitalize when the checkers finally come out. Out near the 9 mile marker here on lap number 3 now, as these riders are charging hard through the last wooded section, really, before they'll see the finish line region at the, well, just past this 9 mile area. And Balance still in the number 2 spot. Look at him. He's swapping all the way back and forth from side to side on that racetrack. Got to wonder if the suspension's set up right on that machine. As we end lap number 3, Chris Borch posts this one in the history books for himself and opening up quite a bit of a lead over Bill Balance. Chris Jinks in 3rd, William Yoakley in 4th. And Dwayne Johnson rounds out your top 5. Out near the 1 mile marker on lap number 4 now, Borch with about a 38-second lead over the champion, Bill Balance. Balance, again, doesn't have to win today, and I think that he is riding like he doesn't have to win. He's just trying to salvage what he can for that championship points race that he is winning right now. And with a good finish here today and another good finish at our next round down in St. Clairsville, Ohio, in a couple of weeks, we could see Bill Balance secure that championship before the 13th and final round of racing actually comes to pass in Crawfordsville, Indiana. Let's check in with Rachel and Jason.
Well, another intriguing race battle between the Killer Bees of Borch and Balance. But Rachel, today you've been down here watching it. Borch seems a little stronger. He's starting to pull away just past the halfway mark.
Yeah, I think definitely after last week with Borch not coming out with a win when you really expected one, maybe makes him try a lot harder here. And Balance is not giving up either because he wants even more of a points lead.
Absolutely. He wants to close it out or at least come as close as he can. But Borch's not going to make that easy. And the track, we thought it'd be a muddy race. Some riders are treating it that way, and some riders aren't. Talk about what you've seen in the pits.
Yeah, over in the pits, I was talking to Chris Jenks' mechanic, and he has said how Chris hasn't stopped for gas, hasn't stopped for gloves or goggles yet. He's acting like it's just a normal day riding.
You never know what strategy these guys are going to run. We do know this. It'll probably lead to an exciting finish here at Unadilla, so we'll be down here to catch it. Stay with us.
Thanks, Jason and Rachel. As we head out near the 3.5 mile marker, the world-famous Gravity Cavity as Chris Borch leading the pack through. Again, opening up quite a bit of a lead. The Killer Bee battle that we saw earlier on, not much of a battle now as Borch is checking out in normal end-of-the-season fashion for Chris Borch. There we see Bill Balance coming into play now out of the 3.5 mile marker. Also seen a butterfly flying by there. That's something that you don't see a lot during rainy days, and amazing that maybe that's a good sign for Bill Balance. He had that butterfly out there. Maybe it's a sign of good things to come for him. Springtime hopes maybe for Bill Balance. Still Jenks back in the number 3 spot. Look how rough that section of the track is. The acceleration bumps are getting very, very deep. The ruts are getting rather deep coming around into that Gravity Cavity also, but you know, some of these riders electing to jump that, other riders electing to just roll over it. But I think that, you know, each and every rider that comes through there, regardless if you got much motocross skills whatsoever, you're going to want to try to jump the Gravity Cavity just for the fact of saying, hey, I jumped it on my ATV during a GNCC race. Out near the 4.5 mile marker now, Borch continues to lead things here now as we have less than 2 laps of racing to go. We've seen the 2-lap board out last time our leaders went through, so next time they come through the finish line barrels, we'll see a white flag come out. And there's the kind of things that makes you lose time. You see, look like Balance got a little cross-rutted coming up that hill, and you know, maybe only lost 3 or 4 or 5 seconds, but whenever you do that, it actually adds up, and that can be why we see that near 40-second lead that Chris Borch has now. Balance maybe not pushing as hard as he normally does, just trying to survive a survival race. And like Rachel and Jason were talking about, some riders not even treating it like a mud race. Other riders probably doing more so of treating it like a mud race. And, you know, you got to ask yourself, what do you do? I mean, you've got those sections of mud out there. You've got those dry sections out there as well. But these dry sections in the woods are also very soft. So, you know, I have to tend to believe that you're leaning more towards a muddy style race rather than not a muddy race whenever you're starting thinking of pit strategies. But some of these riders, they think what they got to think in there to do the best that they can throughout the course of the day. 7.5 mile marker now. Borch is just picking and choosing his lines. And there's Angel Adwell from the morning race, the women's class. She's out there doing some pit boards for somebody. There's Balance coming through in the second place position now as, again, things are starting to open up. About 45 seconds at this point. Chris Jenks in the number 3 spot, seeing a little bit of a gap there, but not nearly as much as we do between first and second place right now. And that's kind of amazing. Normally we get to see these guys run right down to the wire, wheel to wheel. William Yoakley holding steady back there in the number 4 spot as the white flag is out at the end of lap number 4. Borch with a healthy lead as he checks in at the barrels. And there goes wait a minute, where's Borch going? He's leaving the finish line area and actually the track. He's heading to the pits. Some sort of problem for Chris Borch. We take a look at our Suzuki leaderboard. It's Borch, Balance, Jenks, Yoakley, and Johnson. There goes Balance. And right ahead of him, you see Chris Borch gets right back into the number 1 spot. So we see a 40-second lead dwindle down to nip and tuck. There we see Borch again in the pits, Balance in the pits. They both stop, and now Balance is out front of Chris Borch, and Borch shaking his head. He is frustrated. He does not know what's going on. Some sort of problem with his ATV. Had to pull off and head into the pits. Got right back into the race as quick as he could, just ahead of Balance. They both stop in the pits, and Balance got ahead of him, and there is where we are now. Chris Borch trying to reel in Bill Balance whenever he had what looked like an easy cruise to victory with 1 lap to go here at the Unadilla Valley GNCC. Lap number 5, our final lap of racing, 3/4 of a mile mark. And look, again, we told you at the end of lap number 1, heading into that second lap, it didn't look too bad. It looked pretty good. That next lap, it got worse, and it's progressively gotten worse as the day has gone on. Then number 9 of Adam McGill still holding steady. He's trying to charge hard for the possibility of an overall top 3. As we check back out front, it looks like Bill Balance has dropped back off to second place as Chris Borch has gotten back around. So these riders are going back and forth here in his final lap of racing. Chris Jinks still in third. He can't even see what's going on, so he has not a clue how tight the battle is up front. And if those guys get together and take each other out, that could be the give-me for Chris Jinks, and that could be also a gimme for William Yoakley. We could see him make his way onto the podium before this race day is all said and done. Final few feet of the race course, 9-mile marker, Suzuki Special Test section, and look at that rut that has developed. It has dried out. It was a lot worse than that on lap number 1, and the actual terrain there, the runoff has allowed these things to happen and things to dry out, so we do have a rut. And what happened to Chris Borch? There's Chris Jinks. And the reports we're getting is Borch having problems out there on the track. Is that McGill up to a third-place position? We're definitely going to have to reassess the situation here in just a few moments. We've had a lot of jumbling and changes up taking place here on this final lap of racing. What happened to Yoakley? What happened to some of these other guys that were vying for one of the top spots? Let's check in with Jason Wygant and see what's going on.
All right, lots of drama and intrigue here in the last lap at Unadilla. The Killer Bees are battling as always, but Chris Borch, how much fuel does he have? He was actually so worried he was going to run out of gas that he pulled into the pro pit before the track actually looped around. He went off the track, into the pits, got gas, came back on. He lost a little bit of time. He's hoping that splash of gas he got will be enough to bring him all the way to the finish. We're going to find out. It's going to be wild. Another classic Killer Bees battle here at Unadilla.
Thanks for the update, Jason Wygant, as we check in with some of these other pro-class riders out near the 8.5-mile marker now. There is Biffle trying to make his way up that tricky section of the race course, that little uphill section. And there goes Chris Jinks now aboard the number 4 machine. How's this one going to finish whenever we get down to the wire? It's going to be interesting to see. Let's head over to the finish line to see what's taking place. And at the end of the race, it's Bill Balance taking the checkers and the overall win. And I know he's scratching his head right now saying, how did I do that just now? And coming across the line in the number 2 spot, that's going to be the number 4 of Chris Jinks taking the second place position here at Unadilla. I know he is happy to be back up on the podium, though he'd rather be on top of it. In a second place position, he will take that down to the wire for third, and that one's going to go to Adam McGill. We told you McGill was a good, strong mud runner, and it looks like he is able to pull it out in the final lap of racing. Let's check in with that leaderboard, or the winner's board, I guess we used to say. Bill Balance, Chris Jinks, Adam McGill in third, Dwayne Johnson in fourth, and Chris Borch rounds out your top 5.
All right. Adam McGill back on the podium. You never know how these races are going to turn out, huh?
No, you really don't. You just got to, put your head down and hopefully you come out on top.
What will happen on the last lap, man? We saw you 5th and 6th most of the day, and you ended up in 3rd.
I really don't know what happened the last lap. I just, they're about, a mile into it or so on them bogs. Me and Dwayne got hooked up with each other, and from there, I was like, well, there's 5th. So I hooked up with him a little bit and got riding with him, got around him. And then I come across to the finish line, just kept pushing hard all day. When I came across, it said 3rd. I was like, freaking right.
How awesome, man. Now, you do it in the muddy races. You can do it in all conditions, right?
Yeah, I can do it. Yeah, I can do it, I guess. But, I don't know. Maybe it's just the mud's my specialty, but I hate it. I got to get home and clean it and everything else.
Does it feel better with the 3rd place, though?
Oh, yeah, I feel a lot better. The 8-hour drive home will feel a lot better tonight.
Awesome. Good job, man.
Thank you, Jason.
Bill Balance, I know you're thinking championship, but you know you don't have to win these races, but you and Chris Borch were pushing pretty hard today.
Yeah, we were. It was, a pretty good battle there for a while. Chris was really on fire. He was riding good today, and You know, he's in a position where he's got to make some wins, and stuff happen right now, and probably expect some bad luck out of me. And you know, I was in second place, and you know, he's really pushing hard, and I finally just decided to run with him there for a while, and we was really on the edge a little bit, and I was like, you know what, let him go with it and stay here in second place, because I've done some figuring in my head, and I can go out these last 3 races on the podium, and I don't have to win them. So, you know, when it comes time to win, then and I'm in position to do so, then I want to do that. And I stayed in second all day long, battling with Chris. I seen that his engine started smoking a little bit, and it wasn't just a little. You know, a couple miles later, we was on a motocross track, and I think his motor went down on him. But he was riding hard and on the rev limiter all day. But the shim all held together and stopped up radiator and all, and pulled all the way through to the finish line.
How about this track? Got a lot of motocross out here. I know you like that. What was the track like? We had some rain. How'd it turn out?
Well, it ate up real bad. We got a lot of ruts out there. There's a lot of multiple lines, and you know, I think that's what kind of made it so racy. But it was a good track all in all, and I would have liked to have run it with it dry, because yesterday when we was looking at the track, it was just really, really nice. It'd been good to get out there on the motocross track without your quad weighing 600 pounds with all the mud on it. But you know, it was a good race, and I'm just glad to get out here with a win.
Back up here, Chris Jenks. How's it feel, man?
Yeah, it feels great. I want to apologize to all the sponsors. I've been letting down for not being up here last 2 or 3 races, but we're back, and hopefully be here next 2 races.
You know, this track, we took a lot of rain on it, had some motocross. How'd it work for you?
Hey, the track wasn't that bad. Last year it was looped out, and we didn't get any rain at all that I know of. It dried up pretty well today. Yes, there was some muddy sections, but it wasn't that bad. As you can see, the bikes, they're a little bit of mud, but it wasn't any water standing. It wasn't as bad as I was anticipating it. There's dust a couple places, believe it or not. To me, I thought track's pretty fun.
Now, it's all a strategy game when you get to this level. Talk about the lappers and battling with William Yoakley late in this race.
Lappers, you try to set them up way ahead of time. You know, you see them 15, 20 yards ahead. You start yelling, trying to get them heads up. Some guys, they'll cooperate. Other guys, you got to use that bumper, and I hate to do it like that. But, you know, we're up here running for money, and possibly my career's on the line. So some people need to understand, get out of the way when they hear us, or they're going to face the consequences. I hate to do it, but it's what happens.
Hey, you ended up in second place, so whatever you did was worth it, right?
Yeah, we didn't break anything today. Everything ran great. Elka suspension, max tires, everything worked great. It was a great day.
Good job.
Thank you.
What a wild day of racing. The true mud, guts, and glory of what we call Grand National Cross Country Championship racing here at Unadilla. And a lot of things happening there on those last laps. We've seen it happen the last couple of races, and riders that look like they're going to take the win, things just slip through their fingertips. Tough break for those guys, but it's made for some great racing for us spectators.
The Grand National Cross Country Championship is sanctioned by the American Motorcyclist Association. Rights, riding, racing. AMA. Join now. Call 1-800-AMA-JOIN.